Glauber. You know me from the first day. And today I want to give you some hints. Actually, we skipped this slide, the title. Let me see if I, yeah. What are the last things you should do before you go to production? So how can you feel safe that you have something that will work for you in production? It's a checklist talk, just for you to make sure that you're doing all those steps. Get a medical checkup, man. This is really the most important thing. Production means problems. It doesn't matter, the quality of the database. But in reality, I'm just kidding. I mean, we will actually give you a checklist. It's not just like a medical checkup. The list is like a. All right, let's start with right before you deploy, set the cluster name to something meaningful. So by default, you're going to have something, the YAML file, like a test cluster. Now, it sounds like an easy thing to fix. Oh, but if I don't set the cluster name, just set the cluster name to something else later. However, because that is how Scylla coordinates nodes joining and going away, that changing that property is actually a very hard coordination problem, so it cannot be changed later. So make sure that from the start it is set to something meaningful, otherwise it will be hard to change later. Second thing, Yao actually covered that one, but he covered that from the point of view of cost, is setting the snitches correctly. Now make sure that you have network topology aware snitches, even if you don't have multi-data center. The reason for that, from the point of view of my talk, is that that one is also hard to change later. So if you start with the simple snitch because you think, okay, I only have really one data center, when you actually want to have more data centers, you're going to have to change that, and changing that on the fly with the database online, it is quite a challenge. It is possible. However, that is something you want to avoid. So checklist item number 2, make sure that from the start you are using a snitch and a strategy that is aware of your network topology, even if your network topology right now is very simple. Most people make mistakes. I clearly don't. But in case you do you do you know how to take snapshots? And most importantly, do you know how to restore them? Imagine the situation. Oh, I've been practicing how to take snapshots, and now I have my data snapshotted. I'm in production, but I don't really know how to restore it. and then you end up with useless snapshots that won't do you any good. So it is important that you're familiar with those procedures. You don't want to discover how to do that at 4 a.m. in the morning. So if that happens, make sure you know what to do. And of course, restore from a snapshot, very important. If you're not going to restore from the snapshots, the recommended way to take the snapshots is just writing them to dev null. Really fast. Important as well, do you have a repair schedule? Repairs are very important in the Scylla model, Cassandra model as well. Some people can get away without doing this because you're exploiting, interesting properties of your data. That's fine, but are you sure you can really do that? Most people cannot. So do you have a schedule to do that? Do you have some automation? We saw from the Twitter guide today. That's really important. If you can automate those tasks, that's always better instead of you manually doing it. So do you have that in schedule? Really important checklist before you go to production. Also, hardware, what it does best is dying. Most hardware should really be part of the AMC, the Walking Dead. That's what they do. Disks go away all the time, and if that happens, do you know how you're going to respond to that situation? Do you have spare hardware that you can just use? How long does it take for you to get a new hardware? There is one interesting thing in Scylla that if a node is dead for some period of time, you're better off removing that node from the ring altogether. So all of those procedures need to be smooth. They need to be something you are familiar with. Even in the cloud hardware in the cloud dies as well. Also, who can access your data? You obviously want to access your data. The NSA will access your data, whether you want it or not. But the rest of the world should not, I believe. I don't know. Depends on the data. But did you set up your password authentication or whatever else if you're not using passwords because it's a local database behind your firewall? Are you sure you know how to do that? and everything is set up correctly? Are you using SSL for encryption? All of those are things that you need to have on a checklist before you go to production. We saw from Avi's talk, very important, awareness of your cluster. That means monitoring. Are you monitoring? If we happen to print a message on the logs saying that something went wrong, are you going to see that message so you have some nice log hygiene to see what's going on? Are you using our Prometheus Grafana cluster or any other solution? One thing that Avi did mention in his talk as well that I would like to emphasize, we are always willing to help. So if you see a bug or something you suspect is not the correct behavior, can you dump those metrics and somehow communicate that back to us? Again, you do not want to find out how to do that at 4 a.m. in the morning, so being familiar with those procedures is nice. And the last thing, but most important, do get a checkup. I was not kidding. Thank you, Shlomi now.